Today we have a great honor to welcome to our briefing room the Commander of the International Security Assistance Force Joint Command, Lieutenant General Joe Anderson. General Anderson assumed command in Afghanistan in January of this year. Since January, we've seen Afghanistan go through tremendous transition. A new president inaugurated in Kabul, in Afghanistan's first democratic transition of power. The new Afghan government signed the bilateral security agreement. A NATO status of forces agreement will now make it possible for our allies and partners to solidify their plans to contribute to the Resolute support mission next year. I'll moderate the questions from here. Understand that General Anderson cannot see you. Of course, we can see him. When I call on you, please help General Anderson out by identifying for him who you're with, name, and then I'll remind you, because of the satellite connection, there's about a 5-second delay, so please factor that in as you're talking and pausing. We've got about 20 to 30 minutes to get through this. And with that, General Anderson, I'll turn it over to you for opening remarks. Sir.
Okay, Steve, thanks. It's good to be with you all. Thanks for coming out tonight, for me, this morning for you. Just a couple quick, not a script, just a couple quick messages for you here about where we are, where we think we're going, to hopefully help you with some of your questions. Right up front, the Afghan National Security Forces are winning, and this is a hugely capable fighting force who have been holding their ground against the enemy. We've described 2014 as the year of change. That seems to be the only thing that's been constant here, has been change. The Afghan National Security Forces remain at about 352,000. It's about a 156 Army, 155 police split. But they have secured all the election process and maintained a steady operational tempo throughout this fighting season. The insurgents have had minimal effects on the elections. They did conduct a total of 761 attacks, but only about 174 of those were effective. Effective meaning it hurt, did damage to someone or something. Throughout the entire election process, the audit recount and the fighting season, we've been in the close air support business, the intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance business, the quick reaction force business, helping with command and control, advisors, and some sustainment support. The BSA, the Bilateral Security Agreement, and the NATO Status of Forces Agreement were a major setback for the insurgents here this past month. The ANSF has been in the lead for the entire year. I think you all know that 140 total operations this year, which is, they're averaging 4 to 5 more times attacks per week than last year. Very, very significant. And this year the Taliban has failed to achieve tactical superiority over the ANSF. They have massed some forces in a few provinces, districts, but they were not able to hold them. They were beaten back. By the way, their initiated attacks are down this year from around 24,000 to 18,000. The ANSF has sustained about a 6.5% increase in casualties this year, 4634 this year versus 4350 killed in action last year. We expected that actually to be much higher based on the role they've played and where they've been. So overall, fairly stable in comparison to last year. In the transition arena, I think you all know, we are downsizing. We started off with 54,000 service members here when I took over in January from 48 nations. We're now down to 38,000 soldiers from 44 nations, 27 of which are American. We'll get down to 12,500 here by the end of the year, which will be the 9,800 U.S. commitment. And again, we expect about 26 other nations to provide forces as well. This will be a mixture of advisors, force protection soldiers, and enabler providers like close air support and ISR. We are heavily in the base closure transition process. We started with 86 at the beginning of the year. We're down to 26, and we shut one more down next week, and we're done. At the same time as the troop drawdown, we've been retrograding, redeploying, destroying, and transferring equipment to the ANSF. We have reduced 21,000 pieces of rolling stock, about 1.7 million pieces of non-rolling stock, and retrograded and divested some others. And we've also, on the foreign excess personal property, about $620 million worth of equipment has been transferred. But we're on glide path to get to 31 December for Resolute support. And as of yesterday, you probably saw some of the stories today, we transitioned our last regional command to a train, advise, assist command in the east, so we no longer have regional commands here in Afghanistan. Next month is when IJC will merge into ISAF, and ISAF will take over operational control of all ground forces. So lots of progress. The mission's not done. What Resolute Support's all about is trying to get the Afghans above the tactical level to the operational and strategic level. The advisors will focus on the ministerial and institutional levels to work systems, processes, and professionalize the force. We focus those efforts along 8 essential functions. That's everything from planning, programming, budgeting, execution, to sustainment, to planning. The keys are going to be the cross-pillar coordination between the Army, the police, and the NDS, working their intelligence systems and processes, and the continued development of the Afghan Air Force. Strategic issues remain, forecasting logistical requirements, and the budgeting process. So wrap up here and ready to take your questions. The Afghans are thankful for our efforts and support. They're getting after it. They're doing very, very well tactically. Next year the challenges will be focused on what I just described, but it's also going to be a year of great opportunity.
Thank you, sir. We'll take our first question to Phil Stewart from Reuters.
Yeah, hi, General. Thanks for doing this. Could you give us an update on where things stand in the fight against the Haqqanis? I know that there's been operations across the border in Pakistan. There was a successful arrest in Afghanistan of one of Haqqani's sons several weeks ago. How do you see the threat posed by Haqqani? Does the fusion cell set up last year or earlier this year still exist? Where do things stand? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The Haqqani network is one of the many threat streams that continue to affect us here in Afghanistan. And as you know, Haqqani network is focused more on the high-profile attack, like the large vehicle-borne explosives, those types of attacks. Right now, the efforts of the ANSF are very focused on that. There's also the soft component focused on the Haqqani. And again, we are in the enabler business in supporting what the ANSF does. Basically, there's about 6 today, about 6 threat streams based on that network trying to work their way into Kabul. They are very Kabul-centric. Obviously, as you mentioned, the border, they do come in from the east. They are fractured. They are fractured like the Taliban is. That's based pretty much on the Pakistan ops in North Waziristan this entire summer, fall. That has very much disrupted their efforts here and has caused them to be less effective in terms of their ability to pull off an attack here in Kabul.
On that, to support the idea that they become less effective and that the operations have disrupted them, could you give us any examples of how you said operational reporting about to support that?
Say that one again, please. That one came in a little broken.
Diminished.
Okay, now I can, whoever just spoke, I can hear you.
Any specific examples to help illuminate how the threat has been diminished?
Well, the examples have been what the ANSF effect has been in terms of their security operations. So they've been able to secure the major road networks. They've worked the border crossings, and they've kind of worked the layer. It's ebb and flowed based on all the different events that have transpired since the summertime, but they've worked a layered approach to protect Kabul. But I think the successes, the finds they've made, in how they prevented the large vehicle explosives from getting in here and also hitting many of the caches and things like that, where they've disrupted their efforts before they've been able to put an attack together.
Hi, General. John Harper with Stars and Stripes. Are the ANSF capable of going into Taliban strongholds and reclaiming territory, or is their objective after U.S. troops draw down basically to hold the line and prevent the Taliban from taking over even more territory? And also, post-2014, where will the U.S. air support come from? Will that come from assets and bases in country, or will that come from locations in the region or U.S. aircraft carriers?
The second question first, it'll be the air assets will come from a combination. There'll be still assets here in theater, and then of course there's always theater-wide assets that come from outside the country to do the same thing based on what types of operations are being conducted here, what has to be supported from force protection capability for the coalition to in extremis or catastrophic strategic implication type things for the ANSF. So a combination of both. On the first question, they've done both. They've demonstrated in Doab, Hissarak, Sangin, many different district centers that they have the capability to go back in and reclaim ground. They've done that. Estimates vary from 6 to 10 times since the summer in a variety of places from Helmand, Nangarhar, Ghazni, etc. So they've demonstrated their ability to do that. But along with that, they are also trying to ensure presence. Back to that layered defense I was just explaining about the Akani piece, about how they're trying to ensure that they maintain freedom of movement on places like Highway 1, in Wardak, Ghazni, and in some of the more contested areas, northern Helmand, northern Zabul, southern Ghazni, Kunar, Kunduz, and some of those provinces. So they've been able to do that multiple times since this summer.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Dan DeLuce from AFP. Just wanted to follow up on what you were talking about close air support. So if I understand correctly, you're saying that the main focus of close air support in the future will be force protection. And it would be an exceptional circumstance to use close air support in support of the ANSF. Is that correct?
That's right. Those authorities have yet to be defined. The right of force protection is going to be the #1 use of those assets. Remember, in 2015, the ANSF has full responsibility. So as they keep working their MI-17 program, their MI-35 program, the MD-530s, the A-29s, all the things that they're trying to complement, supplement air weapons teams, that will be their version of close air support. What's yet to be defined explicitly will be coalition assets in support of ANSF based on what types of operations they're doing, and again, what the strategic consequences may be based on where they find themselves, what situations they get into, based on what the enemy threat evolves into here for 2015.
And just to follow up on air power, what about medical evacuations? Will it be the same case where it would be more of an exception or a rare case that there was a air evacuation for ANSF a soldier, for example?
Yes. I mean, the bottom line is they're doing it now. So medevac, CASEVAC, 88% of all medevac, CASEVAC right now is done by the ANSF. That's not necessarily by air, though. That's a combination of air and ground. But we provide very limited support to them in the CASEVAC essentially since summertime on, and they have full responsibility for that essentially now.
Hi, General. This is Courtney Cubey from NBC News. General Campbell gave an interview several days ago where he said that he's currently assessing whether there will be enough U.S. troops, U.S. and coalition troops, in 2015 and 2016 to make sure that the Afghan security forces are ready to take on security for the entire country after all the rest of the coalition forces have left. Are you part of any kind of a formal assessment? Are you providing him information? I guess, is there an assessment that's going on right now to determine whether the 9,800 number of U.S. troops plus the additional several thousand coalition forces, whether that needs to be increased even temporarily going into 2015?
Yeah, I am not part of that assessment process. The assessment process is a logical, natural thing that we all do based on the environment here, and again, as we're dealing with troop contributing nation numbers and and as our footprint draws down. The bottom line that we're focused on is, at IJC, is the base plan. The base plan we've been working all year, which was to get to the final footprint, the final numbers, and the 4+1 platform, which is the north, west, south, and east, and the Kabul-centric platform. That is what we have been steering towards all year, all around elections and runoffs and audits and fighting season, and that has not changed for us. The issue will be based on who provides what at the end of the year and what that means. And, of course, the government of Afghanistan, the current president's concerned about the time they've lost based on no BSA being signed, no SOFA being signed for the majority of the year, and the election process, how much time that took. So there are people concerned about what we've lost because of all that. But our focus has been on the enabling business for the fighting season, the train, advise, assist business, institutionalization, all the functions I described earlier with the enablers, and getting all the retrograde redeployment to the base plan that was designed from the beginning of the year, which has not changed up till December 31st.
Concern that the Afghan security forces have lost, I think that the article said that it was 6 to 8 months of time because of the delay in the BSA. Does that concern you at all, that they've lost that time and that may set them back operationally?
I don't think it set them back operationally. It set them back strategically from the ministerial platform. It's cost them a lot of money. It's cost them time to get their systems in place. That's everything from payrolls to contracts to budgets to logistical forecasting. So it's been all that process. Cost them more money. It cost them more time. But what it did demonstrate time and time again through all the security, way back from the Loya Jirga back in November of 13, to the Ghazni Islamic Festival, Nowruz, the opening of Parliament, election, runoff, audit process, the presidential inauguration, through all of those major events throughout the year, they maintained steady and capable in the midst of the fighting season, nonstop. So I don't think it set them back. It made them all the more better in terms of command and control, combined arms integration. We talked about medevac, Kazovac a little while ago, fires, integration of air, sustainment, intelligence, all categories have improved based on all those things they did all year. So the part that they've lost was the development, institutionalization. It cost them people going to school. It cost professional development, and all those systems I described earlier. That's what Resolute Support will provide next year to enhance that capability at the ministerial level and from those core platforms where the core headquarters are, as the center of the ANSF in each of those regions, to build those systems, processes, organizations, but the tactical operational piece, a very solid, steady performance throughout 2014.
General Dave Martin with CBS. Just to clarify from Courtney's question, is there any consideration being given to changing that 9,800 base number? And second, when you outlined all the tasks that the 9,800 would do, you did not mention Special Operations Forces and counterterrorism. Does the counterterrorism mission for the United States end on December 31st?
It does not. I did not. The counterterrorism piece and the special ops piece is not the stuff that I command here. That's under General Campbell and Major General Ed Reeder, but that mission does continue. And again, the same question about authorities in terms of what their authorities will be post-2015 are still being worked out. But that is not the reason why I didn't mention that specifically. It does exist, but that's not the realm that I command and control here. And the 9,800 number is the number, and that's the number that we're moving towards on December 31st, and anything beyond that number is not in my ballpark. So I am not involved with anything different than, as I said to you guys, the base plan.
The 9,800 does not include Special Operations Forces. Whatever numbers they are would be in addition to 9,800.
No, the 9,800 is all U.S., and then the coalition will be 25 to 2,700. Whatever the troop contributing nations finalize up to about 12.5 is the combined 26 nation and U.S. number, 9,800 of which is the U.S., which does include the CT numbers.
Thank you.
General Cheryl Pellerin from DoD News. Can you name what kind of troops are going to be needed after 2014, and exactly? And are you going to have to extend the institutionalization process past 2014? And did you expect to?
Yes, we do. The institutional process is going to take. They've kind of got a gap. They've got the senior core of guys that have been around a long time, and you've got this very young, up-and-coming, young junior officer field. Their National Defense University out there, which consists of their basic. They have their combination of the Officer Candidate School equivalent, a U.S. Military Academy equivalent, and a Sandhurst equivalent. So you go to university and go for 1 year and get commissioned versus 4 years military versus taking college practical application and going through a modified program to get commissioned, normally with prior service, enlisted service. So they have all those combinations. They have a Sergeant Major's Academy. They have all the equivalent schools that we have in our countries, and they are trying to enhance, expand, and make them as meaningful, effective, and as best qualified as they can for their force. So there are advisors that are going to, when you ask what types of people are going to be here, there are people specifically here just for the institutional training piece to help all the different schoolhouses, from police, from the Army, all the basic courses. Those types of programs are going to be alive and well, and there will be people dedicated just to that. Then there will be advisors at the core platforms, which again are going to be a combination primarily of combat arms type people who help work them through their operational type stuff, but then there will be specialists coming in for sustainment, budget, installation, infrastructure management, contracting, personnel systems. The Afghan Human Resource Information Management System called ARIMS is being fielded, which helps them account for people. It makes direct pay. It actually, when soldiers get paid now, it goes right to a bank versus to anybody's hands. So it helps with corruption, accountability. Lots of those systems, processes are all going to take certain specialties to help move the core platforms and the ministerial interior defense, move them along further here in the Capitol. But so it'll be a variety of, and of course then you're going to have your standard intel personnel here working with reduced intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance. There's going to be airmen here, joint tactical air controllers doing, as we were talking about earlier, the close air support and helping with the Afghan Air Force with the fielding of a lot of the A-29 training will occur in the States, but the fielding of that equipment here in the next year or two, but getting Afghan air traffic controllers, air tactical controllers, air liaison officers, all those different fields will be included in these, as we say, these regional core platforms and the Kabul-centric platform.
Thank you, General. The future of the Afghan economy has a lot to do with the success of the Afghan government and the Afghan military, and there was a report that just came out in the past few hours that the Pentagon had tried to work with Iran to help boost the economy in Afghanistan. Can you tell me a little, can you confirm that that was the case, and if not, which countries has the Pentagon and the military been reaching out to try to help boost the Afghan economy as we're pulling out?
Yeah, I'm gonna need your help. A lot of background noise on that. Can you? I'm not sure where you're standing. Can you try that again? I know it's about the economy. I couldn't get most of what you said.
I'd said that the future of the Afghan economy is crucial to the Afghan military and Afghan government's success, and I had seen reports in the past few hours about the Pentagon and the military working with, or trying to work with, Iran to help boost Afghanistan's economy. And I wanted to ask you, can you confirm that? And if not, what countries has the Pentagon and the military been reaching out to try to boost the Afghan economy?
Okay, I think I got most of it. The issue is what we're trying to do to help with the economic situation here. I think that was the gist of your question. It was still coming in very broken. I mean, the bottom line is the trust in the institutions and the security to allow investment. Obviously, through all the forums that have been held, all the dialogue, to include the summit in Wales back in September, validated what people's other countries, nations' interests are in terms of support here. The key is to have credibility in the institutions to promote that, and of course there'll be, I'm going to assume, the economy piece of things here is obviously not the area that I spend most of my time on. The issue is other nations making bilaterals and making contributions like what they're doing at the academy piece is the UK. The UK working their education piece. There are other examples where different nations provide in the medical arenas, working with the military hospitals and civilian hospitals, and there are many examples, but I'm not the expert in who's providing what. The key thing is making sure they have the opportunity to, based on the environment here. And again, the countries that are coming in as the framework nations, the Germans, the Italians, the Turks, obviously the Americans, and what we're doing in each of these platforms here in the north, the west, the south, the east here in Kabul, all contribute to, on the security arena, the $5.2 billion to sustain the ANSF, and then all other things that are going on in terms of supporting particular aspects of their development, training, professionalization.
Are you aware of Iran's talks with Iran about helping with the economy? Because you mentioned the Germans, the Italians, the Turks, but there were reports that Iranians were being discussed with for futures with pharmacies and whatnot. Were you aware of any of that?
Yeah. Did you ask about, and you're coming in really bad, did you ask about the Turks?
No.
Sir, Steve Warren here. The question was, there was a report in the Wall Street Journal today about Iran contributing to the Afghan economy. The question is if you can confirm that, or if you can remark on Iran's contribution to the Afghan economy.
I cannot comment. I don't know anything about Iran's contribution to Afghanistan.
Okay, sir, I think we've got time for one final question. Maybe two. Well, we got time for two.
Sir, Richard Sisk from military.com. Can you describe what the situation now is in the Sangin down in Helmand? Is that one of the areas where you mentioned earlier that the Talibs have been able to reclaim ground? And if you could, sir, could you describe how cooperation, coordination with ANSAF, has that improved now that President Karzai is gone and you've got President Ghani?
Okay, I heard the first part pretty clear. I think you asked about the current situation in Helmand. Helmand is pretty much based on the Marines retrograde from the north down to central Helmand, exposed Sangin, Nowzad, Kajaki, that whole area which began end of June, beginning of July. It was right after the runoff. Some of the checkpoints that were established for the election had been abandoned. They did get to make some inroads in terms of the district center, principally in Sangin, but through a collaborative effort of the ANSF, early July, mid-July, all that was retaken. There's been a couple different movements there by different pillars, including commandos and some other assets there that got involved throughout the course of the summer, but to maintain the security there under the efforts of the 215th Corps, the ANCOP, the Border Police, and the Uniform Police. So that was an evolving, ongoing thing post-runoff. which in the end, again, the ANSF did regain control. It did take a couple of weeks, and it did take a lot of assets. It took a lot of ISR. It took a lot of enablers, but that sorted itself out by end of the summer, and that remains the case there now with General Maluk and the 215th Corps heavily in control of northern Helmand. He's repositioned some forces, and they've maintained that ability now into here in November. I did not. The second part of your question, I didn't get any of it.
Sir, the second part was how relations have improved with the Afghan central government since the transition to a new president.
Oh, okay. General, the generals have all been engaged with their new leadership. President Ghani he's gone out and congratulated them. He's empowered them. He's gone to hospitals to go see the wounded. He's popped in police stations at 11 o'clock, midnight, to see what folks are doing on duty. But he's been very grateful and thankful of the ANSF for all those things I described, what they've accomplished here this past year, and he's been very engaged, heavily engaged with the leadership of the police, of the Army, in dialogue with Corps commanders, provincial chiefs of police. He addressed each of the ministers' conferences a couple of weeks ago in the combined conference between the police and the Army. So there's been a lot more enhanced dialogue, a lot more communication, and a lot more support of their efforts to enhance security here in the country.
Sure, we'll take one last question and then go to closing comments.
General, it's Louis Martinez of ABC News. Going back to your opening statement, sir, I heard you say some figures about casualties, and I want to verify that they were fatalities, all of them. If you could do the interpretation, Colonel. I added up, and it comes up to 9,000 over 2 years. How can that possibly be sustainable for the ANSF if they're all fatalities? And what was the baseline before 2 years ago?
All right, Steve, I think he was asking casualties, but can you, that's all I could hear.
Yes, sir. Look, I didn't even get that.
The 2-year totals that he got, they provided, I think he said they were fatalities. I added them up in my head. It comes out to 9,000, almost 9,000 over 2 years. How can that possibly be sustainable for the ANSF? And what was the baseline before 2 years ago?
The question on casualties, you'd mentioned 9,000 casualties. The question is, was that killed in action? Was that 9,000 deaths in 2 years? And if so, how could that possibly be sustainable? And what's the previous baseline to compare it to?
Yeah, the data I gave you, it was killed in action, 4350 for 2013 and 4634 for 2014. Those are killed in action. No, this is not sustainable. So the issue they're having between attrition, they're averaging around their goal is a 1.4% AWOL rate between the Army and police. The Army's gone down some, the police have gone up some, but the bottom line, their first priority right now is to get their recruiting back up, and you'll hear lots of talk about organizational restructure, the task skills, making sure which is their manning document, to get their manning document filled to their numbers. The police are about 89%, and the Army's about 81% fill. So they're reorganizing their headquarters. They're working how they're recruiting, and they have to also work everything fundamentally, particularly on the police side, their tactics, techniques, procedures for how they protect themselves with their equipment, with their counter-IED. That's their individual protective equipment. That's their counter-IED equipment to make sure they have less casualties due to IEDs. It's a combination of all the above, but they do need to decrease their casualty rate. They've done, as we talked earlier, about their medevac capabilities, how you continue to improve quality of care at the point of injury, all the way through evacuation to a hospital. All those things have to continue to improve to reduce those numbers, because those numbers are not sustainable in the long term.
Sir, the last piece of that question, do you have comparable figures for prior years to get a sense for the trends on killed in action?
I don't know if I brought how far back I brought. Hold on a sec. Yeah, we can. I've only got with me. I only have the last because we were comparing the year they took the lead as they get to full responsibility. So we do have data for multiple years back, and we can get that back. But all I have with me is the last two because we were comparing in the lead to full responsibility. That was the comparison for us this past year.
Understood, sir. We'll take that for the record and get it through Kevin. That concludes the question portion, sir. If you've got any closing remarks, we'll take them.
Okay, yep, just to reinforce three things, if you will. The ANSF is winning. I hope I gave you enough examples. They are the most trusted government organization in Afghanistan. They are trying to provide time and space for this society to grow and reduce the insurgency. But as the events as things progress here, like the first democratic transition of power, we have to continue to watch what the objectives are going to be of the insurgency and how we try to ensure that the ANSF helps establish legitimacy here in the country. I want to reinforce the coalition's efforts here have not been in vain. Through international organizations and many contributing nations, education, free press, telecommunications, all these things are going very well. We can see the benefits of this new democratic elected government taking shape. It is very optimistic here. There is more capability, there is more accountability, and there's more opportunity than we've seen in the past year. 7.9 million primary, secondary kids going to school, more girls. Literacy rate is now 30%. Very, very good, which is up from 12. During Taliban rule, internet, cell phone use, all these things continue to make a difference here. And as you all asked, as we look at the 70 donor countries, the issue will be what things they tend to grab onto based on stability and security thriving here, and people seeing, again, progress, forward progress. Lastly, as I said, there's still progress to be made, and again, the Corps and ministerial levels will be the focus. We will develop institutions. We will work to make a sustainable, capable military force. The key is to maintain their tactical overmatch over the Taliban, and that's going to become ever more important as the coalition footprint reduces by December 31st and reduces again at the end of 15. But thanks for your questions, thanks for your attendance, and thanks for your attention.
Sir, we thank you for your time, and we look forward to seeing you back here at home station. This is the Pentagon out.